Afternoon. I was like, am I in Jamaica? Or where am I? Afternoon, everybody. Thank you. So I'm Sharmaine Lovegrove. Welcome to my family home. I'm so happy to have you all here. It means a lot to me. My family grew up here and the houses next door. My great-grandparents buried just there, and I feel like the sea, my great-granddad was a fisherman. The sea is so important. The stories that the fishermen came back with, I feel like helped make me into the book person that I am. So it's kind of, if I start crying, it's because I feel very emotional of hosting our first Black Writers Guild event in Calabash Bay. It really means a lot. So Simeon and I started with Nels Abbey, with Afua Hirsch and the late, great Benjamin Zephaniah, to name but a few people who were involved in the very beginning of the Black Writers Guild. We wanted to lobby for the equity and equality of Black people and writers in British publishing. And we thought it would be very fitting to host a gathering of those of you that are at Calabash. Over the years, I've kind of figured out that a few of you are going, because whenever you'd see me somewhere, you'd be like, I saw you at Calabash. So Simeon sent out an email with Jamaican time. Hand over to Simeon.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess for so many of us, coming to Calabash is such a homecoming. And to link up with so many writers from across the diaspora, from the US, from Jamaica, from the rest of the Caribbean, and even from London, who you don't even see because they're in deep South London.
All right. Rap, South London.
It's just so, I think, such a great opportunity to have a meet-up with so much of our kin that we see and that we don't see here in Jamaica, and it feels so brilliant to see everybody here. And to be able to hear two of our finest speakers from different sides of the Atlantic, and Shani and Cindy speak. And yeah, thank you so much for coming. I think it's so important that writing can be a very isolated and lonely pursuit, but to have community with readers is really what it's all about as well. So to be here together, bring some bread in, some bread, some patty, have 1, 2 drink, I think it's brilliant to do. So a round of applause for our speakers.
So I just want to quickly say thank you so much to our favourite birthday girl of the moment, Cindy. Also Desi's birthday as well, my cousin, so happy birthday, Desi. Can't just miss anyone out. And birthdays. Blessings to all the Taurians out there. It's our season still. But I just want to say, Cindy, like what you've done for Caribbean literature and how you have upheld our narratives and told the world about how brilliant the writers from the Caribbean are, and how you've stood strong, and you've been a critical friend to many, which I think is also really is really important. And you've been a really warm and loving and open and brilliant advocate for our stories. And you know, I feel like as Caribbean people, and specifically as Jamaicans, you know, we stand on the shoulders of those who are 450 years of slavery, 250 years of colonization, and our stories really need to be told. And so those of us that can, must, should, and those of us who can make sure that those stories get into the world, can, must, should. And so I just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you do for bringing our stories into the world. We really value and appreciate you. And Shani, we met at Calabash a couple of years ago, the last Calabash, and I just loved your tenacious spirit and your hustler, and I was like, this girl is full-on Jamaican. And see it, she's just like, and so when you contacted me recently and said, could we do something at your house, I was like, of course, no one's ever asked me that before. And here we are, and your book is brilliant, and you are brilliant, and I'm like, when you meet someone where they're at the beginning of their journey before they publish their book, it's always so interesting to see what they will do and how they will do it. And I have to say that you are an absolute force to be reckoned with, and it's been amazing watching your star rise and to see how you've just sort of taken the publishing world by storm for your brilliant writing and excellent publicity. And I think you're a treasure to our nation, both in Britain and Jamaica. So congratulations. So these wonderful ladies are going to have a conversation now. The book is for sale. And then afterwards, I'm more than happy for those of you who are writers and those of you who have any questions about the publishing industry. I will give you one question each, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have about that. We'll do that after the session, so you can do it publicly, so that everyone can hear if there's any burning questions, because it's also important to share knowledge of the industry. But first, we're going to celebrate your paperback publication. So congratulations.
Wow! I was.
Thank you so much, Cindy.
Hi. So it wouldn't be a Black Writers Guild event unless I did some demystifying of publishing, like telling you how much people get paid for their work and how the whole process works. So if you have any questions about how to find an agent or what the publishing process is like, whether or not you have to have a profile to get published, etc., etc. And now is your chance to ask me some questions, because when I'm eating a patty or having a drink, then I won't be answering those questions. So is there anything that anyone wants to ask about publishing? Yes, hi.
Yeah, hi. I know you just mentioned about an agent. Is it definitely necessary that you need an agent to get
Published.
published?
Yeah, so if you go down the self-publishing route, then you don't need an agent. So if you wanted to publish on platforms like Amazon, so like Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, then you don't need an agent, but you do need to get an editor. You need to find an independent editor. Being edited is very, very important. But if you want to sell your books to a publishing house, that will then has a whole distribution channel and has marketing and publicity, then the way to do that is through an agent. And having been in that situation when people come to me with a lot of manuscripts, it's even if the intention is there, it's actually much harder to remember to read something that's being sent to you outside of an agent, because agents push. But also, I have to say that the agents who advocate for their authors, I can really see how it works best for an author to kind of almost have the sort of purist relationship with their editor and the publishing house, and leave all the messy, complicated, knotty bits about the deal and the money and payments and all of that. You don't want to be talking about that whilst you're also talking about delivery dates for your book and talking about the vision. You want to kind of keep your relationship professional but creative with your publisher, and then you want your agent to deal with the mess of like the backside of the publishing. So I think it's, and also it's how we as publishers pay attention. Do you know how to find an agent and what to do?
I didn't ask too many questions.
No, it's fine.
I leave for other people to ask questions, but yeah.
So if you write non-fiction, then what you need to submit is you need to have the outline of what it is that you intend to write. You need to have the first 3 chapters of the book, and you need to have all the chapter outlines of everything that you're going to put in that non-fiction. So that's a proposal. And for fiction, you need to have a full manuscript around 80,000 words, and you need to send the first 3 chapters.
Yeah, sorry. Just to follow up on what you were talking about at the beginning, do you need a platform already in order to be published, or do you build that as you go along, or kind of, what's your approach as a publisher?
Yeah, I mean it. Now, like more now, people are saying like you need a platform, but actually, I think if you're smart about it, what you really need is to get booksellers behind you, and I think spending time with booksellers who are remembering. So the ecosystem is that it starts with the writer and it ends with the reader, and then there's all these people in the middle, and then the writer, agent, publishing house, bookshop, reader is the ecosystem. And so, yes, there's social media in between the publisher and the reader, but really it's the bookshop, the retailers where people are going to get the books. So for me, I think the smartest thing, which people don't normally talk about, is like, if I was a writer, I'd just be going to bookshops all the time and befriending bookshops in your local area, like bookshops in the city that you live in or the town that you live in, and I would probably spend more money and time on that than I would on a social media platform.
How much sales would that translate into?
Well, the thing is that, so with a social media platform, we see that people could have like 1 million followers, but only like 3% of their followers would actually buy a book.
That's quite a lot though. For...
Yeah, if you've got 1 million followers, right? But most people have like 400 to 600, and what it takes to get up to like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 followers on Instagram takes so much time and money. And what you want is for the retailers to actually believe in what you're doing and order the book. So I would when you're talking to your publisher, I would look at a campaign with your marketeer. So marketeers are the ones that spend money, and publicists don't spend any money. Publicists get you into book events and festivals, etc., but they don't use their own money to do that. The festivals pay for you to go. Whereas marketeers use all the budget for a book is really on marketing. So that should be like the push into social media, but your own force, I think, should be through bookshops. And the more booksellers that believe in your book, Simeon, then the more that they will encourage the orders. So if you go to a Waterstones, for example, if you went to like 10 Waterstones in London and you got to know the various different booksellers, when they head office will start hearing the booksellers are excited about this book coming, and then they're more likely to place a bigger order. And that's what we want to see as publishers, is like, we want to see a big order, and that's how you kind of make it more into the bestseller list. We have like a whole strand of sort of bookseller focused marketing strategy, and I've seen that that's the most, to me, that's like much more effective. Publishing is about personal relationships and getting people to believe that your story is worth reading. And social media is not actually as effective if you're not already an influencer. Yeah.
Around the agents, and like, so there's the criteria for fiction. Is there a directory somewhere for, okay, so I've got my bits for either, so now how do I actually get one?
Yeah, so there's a book that comes out every year called the Writers and Artists Yearbook, and that tells you every single agent in the UK, Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and it literally lists everybody, the books that they represent. It lists every publishing house, every literary magazine, and the email addresses and the contact details. So there literally is like a sort of a Bible. But the best way to understand how to use that, I think, is so knowing where your book fits in its oeuvre, like knowing what other writers you write like. Of course you are original, but as Shani was saying, short stories, so then knowing that you're writing, and like Alexia Arthur, so then you see, okay, well, who is Alexia, who is she saying in the back of her book? So in the back of your book you have acknowledgements. So if you're writing short stories in the Caribbean, then you'd be like, okay, who who are you acknowledging, because this is your team and I want to have a similar team, and you can see that all writers should have their agents in the back of their books. At Dialogue we also put the publishers and we put everybody in the back of our books that work with us, and so that you have total transparency. And so once you've figured out who you write who you're inspired by, then you can send a really direct email to that agent saying, I write in the same vein as this person, but I've got a different narrative twist, and I'd really like you to look at my work, and etc., etc. And agents love that. They love because otherwise it's just a generic letter.
Yeah.
So by quoting other writers that they represent, and then you can go to, and so when you see their name, then you can go to the writers and artists see your book, and you can get their email address.
Thank you.
Yes.
I mean, one of the things that writers say, Shani said, is that the events that they do sometimes have to be things that they have created, and it's them hustling. And there's a sense that publishers aren't doing that work. Do writers have to just accept now, if they want a readership, that they have to build that themselves, or is that a failure of the publisher?
So, I mean, that's a great question, and I would say, in a really interesting way, this is why we wanted to start the Black Writers Guild, right? Because we understood that there was a gap in what the intentions of what a publisher wants to do and the reality of what they can do. And the reality is that having run an imprint and then a division at the second biggest publishing house globally over the last 8 years, then I would say the biggest disappointment is realizing how hard it is for publishers to find new readers, and especially as there's different types of books that are coming out. And so I don't think that you should take it all on as writers to figure out all of your events programming, but I think that there is, if I was starting a new job and if I was dedicated to a business that I had, and if that business in this case is writing, then I would see I wanted my creative craft to reach as many different people as possible, then I would figure out how to have those conversations, as I said, with booksellers, with festival programmers. Like Shani's like, can I do this here now? You guys are going to buy a book, happy days. Those things are really, really, really important for you to do yourself, because it's just not possible, or unfortunately, for a publicist to do it all. I was looking, there was an announcement about a division today in the bookseller. I'm not working, but I still read the bookseller every single day. I am on holiday. This is holiday for me. And they said they published 284 books last year. That's a huge amount of titles. So especially when you're a debut, and especially as you want to come up, then I think it's really important to kind of take on some of that work to ensure that you're maximizing your own potential. My thing is I bet on myself more than anyone else, and I think that as writers you should be doing that as well and not being afraid of it. I think the issue is when you just have this expectation that other people will do it for you, and I think in any case there's always so much anyone else is going to do. But if you feel like your trajectory could be wider, there's actually no harm in propelling that yourself, and then asking for support, like getting the bookseller involved, or and creating that community. And that's one of the things that I love about being part of like a wider community and doing things like this, where you can meet each other as writers, and as you go on your journey, then you can tap into your communities and know that you can rely on each other, because we have to rely on each other before anyone else is going to do it for us. Yeah.
Writers, sorry, my brief question is AI killing off writers? The bigger question is, I don't tweet, I don't TikTok, I don't Instagram, I'm just about WhatsApping, but my nieces, nephews, the younger generation, and it pains me to say that because I'm now quite the older, but actually attention spans are really short term, are really instant, are really quick. Writing isn't. It's an art. And with AI, I was watching American TV, because I watch a lot in Jamaica, and they're talking about the amount of essays and theses that are written by AI and all that business. So, we go back to the short question, is AI going to kill off writers, and modern, and within that, the whole modern technology? How do you fight back against that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big topic, right? Do I personally believe that AI is going to kill off writing? No. I don't think it's... I think that people will get satisfaction from moments of AI, so saying, can you write me a short story that sounds like Colson Whitehead meets Jane Austen? Because I just feel like reading that. Will they be able to get it published? No. Will they, you know, did they write it? No. Will they be able to have a conversation about it? No. There's just factors, like what we're doing now, like right now, is part of a salon which goes back to 17th, 18th century literature. Like in Berlin, Jewish women brought the salon together to have conversations around literature, writing and ideas, right? What we're doing is something that has always been done. The internet did not stop writing. It did not stop us from publishing books. E-books did not kill off the print book. AI might be able to enhance what people who are neurotypical or people who have that shorter attention span and need a bit of support. It might be able to support them, but will it be able to write a whole book that has an authentic voice that people want to read, buy, support, etc.? No. And the reality is that, for example, the book that just won the Booker Prize, the International Booker Prize yesterday, they don't have a social media platform. They don't have I've never heard of them. I didn't hear of the book. Am I going to go and buy it? Am I going to go to a talk? Absolutely, 100%. Like, you're here today, right? And the thing is that what we need as other human beings is other people. And what we want to hear from other people is like people that know about stuff. And the people that know about things are the writers. And so I believe in that because I believe, as someone who studied anthropology, then like this is like the facet of humanity. So will it enhance certain elements that might make things easier? Yes. Will it replace? No.
Now, my question was more focused on the reader. Is AI killing off writing? Because actually it's so infesting readers.
Well, if you will. No, because again, like human beings need ideas to thrive. It's just something that we need. It's kind of, I think it's really easy to kind of be really dismissive of what's happening. Or really afraid of what's happening, but I think you have to also look at the last 100 years of technological advance, right? It's like when people were afraid of electricity, when people were afraid, like there's so many positives that come from the advancement of technology that can enhance how we live, and yet people do have shorter concentration spans, but there's always been lots of people that couldn't read a novel. Like there's more people that are, you know, Hachette as a publisher, we made £91 million profit, not turnover, profit last year. Profit. £91 million, right? So when you start understanding that and you see that Penguin Random House globally made $1 billion in turnover, $1 billion turnover. That's a huge amount of money. That's from people reading. books. That's from books, the written word from actual human beings. And each of these publishers have pledged to do that. And readers are buying books in their droves. So they can't make the money if people aren't buying the books. Hi.
That neatly segues into money and how much authors make. So you've mentioned some massive figures there. How much trickle down is there? And how does an author access that trickle down? Is it by way of an advance? Is it, I mean, how does that work?
Okay, so authors get paid in, so when an agent submits a book, then an agent will say, I think that this book with the synopsis is like this, this and this book. So when you submit to your agent, you should also know, I write like this writer, I'm in this genre, this is what I do. And that confidence helps the sales team to create a pricing model. So we believe that at $16.99 or $18.99 or $22.99 or £22, we are going to sell 5,000 copies, or we're going to sell 2,000 copies, or we're going to sell 50,000 copies. And that's how we advance in hardback. And then we're going to sell X amount of copies in paperback, ebook, audiobook. All of that is collated. And then a figure comes out which says this is what the advance should be, and it should be anywhere between 6,000 to 600,000, right? Or especially in the UK, and so that's then divided into 4. So you're paid on signature, you're paid on delivery of your manuscript, then first format, so when the hardback comes out, and then when the paperback comes out. So you're paid 4 times. Once you've paid that part, and your book goes beyond the number, so say they thought you're going to sell 5,000 hardbacks and 8,000 paperbacks, then you get into royalties. So whatever was agreed with your agent, that royalty number starts kicking in as the book sells. So you get all of your advance, but once the book earns out, as we say, and pays for, and in that is all the distribution, the paper costs a lot of money now, that pays for your editor, that pays for the designer, all of those costs are within that advance, and that advance then, once that's paid off, then you go into royalties, and that's when we really start making money. So the plan is not to get to your advance, but to get to royalties.
So curious, just follow up. If your books keep getting more popular, and does the figure change each time? Okay. So the baseline, what you call the advance, stays the same, but your royalties would more likely increase.
Yeah. So there's the baseline, and it's called escalators. So say for example, between the first one to 10,000 copies above the advance, then it starts like 15% extra. Then once you get 10 to 25, then it goes to 20% extra. And like each time you go up in multiples, then also your percentage per book that you get back also goes up. And that's called an escalator, but that's all worked out with your agent.
I'm just curious. I clearly have not done this.
No. I mean, it's not. No, it's very hard to know this. It would be weird if you didn't know it, but you should know it because it is a business.
And I don't think I asked clearly. That is helpful. But my question was, okay, so I'm Ali Hazelwood, and I write my first book, and it does really well. And I'm coming to negotiate my second and third book.
Negotiate your next book.
So does that baseline figure go up because they now expect me to?
Yeah.
So it's harder to do the escalation after because.
No, with your first book contract, your escalations are just what your escalations are.
Right.
With your second book, your agent can go back and be like, we made this much money, so now we want more of the money up front rather than later.
Okay.
So therefore, can you, and I actually worked at Little Brown and I saw Ali Hazelwood's contract, so I can see the difference of like how much she was paid first time and next time and next time. And it is like pretty phenomenal, the difference, but basically the negotiation is we made this much money, so next time we want more up front. in the advance rather than waiting for the escalator.
I'm not a writer, not an author, I'm not in the publishing industry. I just want to go back to the conversation around getting black writers in front of readers. And I run a literary festival in the UK.
So you are part of the publishing industry.
Well, yes, I was saying, so we fit into the ecosystem.
Of course.
But there are a couple of challenges. So we hardly ever, we are often DMing authors on social media, partly because we find agents and publishers really difficult to push black authors through to us. And our festival, or strapline, is making marginalized mainstream, where we are about bringing marginalized communities to readers. So I just wondered, first of all, how can we find authors? Because I spend a lot of time doing Google searches, trying to find someone who's writing a book, because we ask publishers to pitch to us, and they never pitch anyone. Oh, no, that's not true. That's exaggerating, but I'm Jamaican. They very rarely pitch the people we want to put in front of readers. And then also, just as a literary festival, what can we be doing to increase equity for black writers?
And equity in which area specifically?
Well, just creating an equitable platform, so giving platform to black writers, making sure that they earn as well as their white peers on the festival circuit.
So, okay, this might sound really controversial, and I don't want to take apart your business model, but like I think the strapline is something that may be challenging also for black writers.
Mm-hmm.
And having run an imprint and a division that's around inclusion rather than, like, I've never used the word diversity. I very rarely use anything about marginalized or minority, because we are actually the global majority. And so one of the things when you start talking about it from that viewpoint, then everyone just assumes that you're really small. And also as part of the BWG and also professionally at Hachette and running Shame Story, I'm in a lot of areas where we are marginalized and minorities, but actually writers do not want to be seen like that. And especially writers that have come from who've been agented and then are at a big publishing house. What they want is absolute mainstream. So the thing is that, so how I navigated that with Dialogue was to ensure that, to remember that we are also the mainstream. We also buy from Marks and Spencer's as well, but we also buy patties, and we go to Brixton Market and we buy our seasoning from the independent shop. But we see adverts in Sainsbury's and whatever, and we're buying, we're multicultural. And I think that there's something, just as I think that there's probably a blockage that authors and agents and publicists, I can imagine, and I really want to put especially because most of them are white, they don't want to put their authors forward to something that sounds marginalized, because their promise is to not do that.
I'm sorry, I think I haven't explained it properly. I completely agree with you. And because one of the things that we're always concerned about as well is if you put authors that are in marginalized communities in front of audiences of marginalized communities, then you're just creating a marginalized world, right? But it's actually, we basically have authors from all backgrounds at our festival, but we do recognize that black authors, well, not just black authors, but I'm specifically speaking about black authors in this setting, they struggle to get to festivals, and so we want to make sure that they get into a space.
But yeah, I think it might be the tagline. I think it genuinely might be that there's a few different things, but I also think just if that's the thing that you're saying about the festival, I can imagine my publicist would just they would be I'm not gonna, I don't want to put my authors forward to something that sounds really small. I think that I might be suggesting a slight tweak on the branding, because I'm just really into that. But I think that could be a blockage. I'm not saying that I have no opinion about it other than I heard that, and I know that what my publicist would say, and I also know what my authors would probably say. Whereas if it was like great stories for all communities, for example, then I think then kind of focusing on the celebration is brings together something that's a lot more collaborative. And I think if you went in with more of a positive spin on it, then you'll find that more people, and specifically black people, will feel like they want to be part of it. But I do think that there would be a blockage in anything that's about minority, because also that's what they've all been told. They've all been told, and also by the writers and the agents, etc., etc. It's just narratives and how we and how Shani, like in terms of how terms of sometimes like when you have an event or something, like you want it to feel like it's something that's part of something bigger and in the mainstream.
And how do literary festivals support black writers?
I think that more literary festivals have been actively making sure that there are more black writers. Lucy, can I get some water, please? That there are more black writers at more events. So going to Oxford, Cheltenham, Hay, there's more black writers at Hay than I've ever seen. Hay is the biggest literary festival in the UK. Then Cheltenham, we did a proof party there. There were like 20 black writers at Cheltenham. Cheltenham is like the whitest place on the planet. So I think the Arts Council have been doing more. Actually, do you want some? Thanks. I think it's thoroughly disappointing. I think it's deeply upsetting. It's thoroughly disappointing. They haven't done enough. They don't do enough. They saw black writers as a trend. The trend didn't work, and they fucked it up.
What do you mean the trend didn't work?
Post George Floyd. Post George Floyd, not enough. One of the things that happened was that there were a lot of black writers that who took really big book deals, really big six-figure book deals. It's really, without really understanding the numbers. So when I was seeing this and reading this and finding out and hearing about it, I would be like, it's unprecedented for any writer to be taking such big book deals on their first books, because there's a trajectory of how you build up to that. So like, for example, at Calabash, you'll see Ian McEwan. Ian McEwan did not get a six-figure book deal for his first book. It would have taken him like 6 or 7 books. Like, I've read every book by him, right? Since I was 13, 14, I've read every single one of his books. I remember when his book, Atonement, got into the 3 for 2. That was the first ever 3 to 2. And it was also I Got a Small Things. And then there was a Sophie Kinsella book, and I was a bookseller at Waterstones. So when I'm looking at white writers, we never saw this, that there were just like debut 6-figure deals. So with these really big deals, then what was happening was that it was almost impossible for those writers to earn out. Like the maths that I gave earlier, the book maths, which is like, this is how many you're going to sell. Not enough writers understood what the expectations were. So then, when their books didn't get to those levels, then it became really easy for publishers to be like, I tried it, we did it, it's done. And that's what happened. And you can see the trajectory of that very, very clearly, and it is utterly heartbreaking. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't have tried to get paid for what they were doing, but I do think that, and as part of the Black Writers Guild, well, I have been one of the only black people in publishing in the UK who actually works in the publishing house, is on the board of a publishing house, who is an actual editor, who has been championing our books for years. I was, you know, my thing with the guild has been like, we have to educate people on what this is, because the fact is that you're going to write anyway, and so think about your longevity of your career rather than like the quick. And so essentially, if you have like 45 people in 1 year getting 6-figure deals, and then only one of those books becomes a bestseller, then it's really easy for them to say, this doesn't work. We're not going to spend any money or time because there isn't a readership. And what should have really happened is that we should have, as an industry, built an entire readership, supported festivals like yourself, worked with independent bookshops, worked with writers to build and galvanise an entire community, but we did it the wrong way round. We went writer to reader, and we should have gone reader to writer. And I think that that was our failure as publishers, and I do find that like entirely heartbreaking. And we failed. Like, we just failed.
But it's rectifiable.
It's totally rectifiable because I'm just giving you the model. Like, we just have to go the other way around, and like, but also we have to buy the books. We have to buy the books. If we're not buying the books, if we're not getting them from the library, if we're not doing it, then like we can't really expect them to keep anyone. Because also, by the way, it's not that white writers are not a monolith.
Yeah.
You know, and they also have, you know, remember when they did Publisher Pays Me? And I was like, well, there's very few people talking about how many books they actually sold. Lots of people talking about advance, and I was like, as a publisher, I was looking at the numbers and I was like, this isn't mathing. Because you can only talk about your advance if you talk about sales. Because the sales is what tells you your success, not your advance. Okay, last question, because I can really talk about this forever. And some people need to go to the toilet and have patties and also have a glass of wine.
I'm curious, Kat?
Yeah.
I'm curious about what it would look like for a nonfiction writer to approach across the pond, to approach UK publishers.
Yeah, I mean, you would need an agent for a start, and also, you know, the universality of any narrative is really important to be able to sell that book in a different country, you know, and if your book isn't universal, that's completely fine, like but even if it's set in America, there has to be themes that are relatable in other places. So it's not location, it's experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm coming from a reader perspective, not a writer perspective, and being based in Jamaica, I sometimes have a challenge with books that are published out of the UK and we just can't get them. We can't get them on Audible, can't get them physical copies. What's the solution right now for that? Because we are here, seeing the recommends books, other people are trying to read. What's the solution?
No, I know. I mean, don't tell customs, but I did actually bring books in a bag from England to Jamaica and like didn't declare it, but I just didn't know.
Yeah.
You know? It's just,
Love it.
they were talking to me about like food. And
Right.
I was like,
Yeah, no food.
books.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really big problem. Like at Hachette, we actually have an office here, and we should have, you know, when we buy the rights.
Here, where?
In Kingston.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Where?
Kingston.
Like where?
So we have Hachette Education here.
Okay.
But I've been like lobbying to get people from the other side, you know, from the trade side. But and when we buy the rights of books, and this is another bugbear of mine, is that it's deeply colonial. So when we buy rights, it's the UK and Commonwealth, which is deeply upsetting. And so in theory, your distribution for those books should be for countries of the current Commonwealth or former Commonwealth or like the Empire, and I just but you know, know, the Caribbean is definitely in the list of countries. They call them territories. At Dialogue, we actually changed all of the contracts because I couldn't use this language on a daily basis. They'd be like, what are we doing in these African territories? And I was like, no, white man, you were not saying it to me. How do they say, how are we exploiting these African territories? And I'd be like, you can't say that. It's really difficult.
Thank you.
Shipping is really complicated. It's not going to get any easier with Trump. It's not about to get easier with the different tariffs. So, I mean, I think can you get audio books?
No. If it's purely published in the UK and doesn't have the US arm as well, we can't get it. So even
it's really
digital.
Because with Diana's book, who's reading at
Calabash,
Diana Macaulay, so her book, The House of Miss Pauline, I had to bring them over because it was actually the US publisher. It was going to be more expensive than the UK edition.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold on, this doesn't make any sense, that the US edition is going to be more expensive than the UK, but it's harder to get in the UK.
Yeah. So our options are essentially to purchase on .co.uk and have them shipped over to us, physical copies.
And how much does that cost?
I don't know. I haven't tried it recently. I think the last time I tried it was, I don't remember which one it was. To the UK? They'll ship to our US address.
Do ebooks work?
No. So that's a challenge. So digital, I'm asking if digital could be done even if we can't get hard physical copies.
Okay, I'm going to actually, because this is actually a really interesting business model, let me have a look into this.
Sure.
Let me figure this out, because now I'm like, hold on, you can't get English language, like UK published books to Jamaica.
No. So for example, Amazon specifically, I can log into amazon.co.uk, but I cannot purchase the digital or the audiobook copy that way. I can purchase the physical copy and have it shipped over, but I can't do any digital. It will tell me I'm not in the territory or something. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting because we don't.
Are there any independent ebook or audio publishers that are doing this in the Caribbean?
No.
I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer that.
That is very interesting. Thank you
Business.
for giving me another business idea. I love that.
In theory, like
That is a really good gap.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
You should be able to access an ebook.
It's
no matter where
it's
you
possible.
are.
I don't
We
know.
can get them.
Where?
South Africa, but we can get a lot of things. But like when you have like an Amazon account and stuff, you can get
Are you in South Africa?
ebooks and like.
So, because we're the same contract.
Yeah, we can get the ebooks and
In terms of
audiobooks
distribution.
if you sign up for your thingy.
Okay, I'm going to look into this. In the meantime, as you can't get books anywhere, it turns out that you can get books right here. And Shani will be signing. There's a toilet through there, and then there's more refreshments. And thank you so very much.
Thank you.